The Black Vault Tapes, Episode 147, The Century of Deception. Lock your doors. Kill your smart speaker. Pour something strong. This one is the whole puzzle in one piece. Tonight we're not chasing one rabbit hole. Tonight we're standing at the bottom of the shaft and looking up at every tunnel at once. 1 hour. No breaks. No sponsor reads. Just the map they never wanted you to see. If you're ready, let's begin. They told you the 20th century was about democracy versus fascism, capitalism versus communism, East versus West. That's the children's version. The adult version is simpler and infinitely darker. The entire century was a controlled demolition of human sovereignty, executed in phases, by the same small circle of men and the permanent intelligence structures they built to outlive them. Phase 1, the money. 1913, Christmas Eve. Congress conveniently empty. The Federal Reserve Act is passed. Most people think the Fed is just a boring central bank. Wrong. It is a private cartel granted the monopoly to print the world's reserve currency, backed by nothing, while charging interest to the United States Treasury in perpetuity. Senator Nelson Aldrich, whose daughter married John D. Rockefeller Jr., literally sailed to Jekyll Island in a private train car with Paul Warburg of Kuhn, Loeb and Company to draft the bill in secret. They called it the Aldrich Plan until they realized that name was too obvious, so they rebranded it the Federal Reserve and sold it as reform. From that moment forward, every war, every boom, every depression became a profit center for the same bloodlines. Phase 2, the war engine. World War I wasn't started by an assassin in Sarajevo. That was the match, not the gasoline. The gasoline was poured years earlier,
when the same banking interests financed all sides. J.P. Morgan's firm floated $1.5 billion in loans to the Allies, $1,915. If Germany won, Morgan collapsed. So guess who got dragged in with a fake Lusitania incident and forged telegrams? We did. And right on cue, Woodrow Wilson, who campaigned on, "He kept us out of war," reversed the moment his handler Colonel House whispered in his ear. Overnight, the US morphed from isolationist republic to global enforcer for the creditors. Phase 3, the rehearsal. 1933, Hitler is handed power. You've been told he was a madman who seized it. Read the actual financing records. Prescott Bush, yes, that Bush family, through Union Banking Corporation and Brown Brothers Harriman, was moving money for Fritz Thyssen, the steel magnate who bankrolled the early Nazi Party. Standard Oil, Rockefeller, shipped tetraethyl lead to IG Farben for aviation fuel. IG Farben built Auschwitz. Let that sit for a second. The same cartel that created the Fed profited from both the Holocaust and the war to stop the Holocaust. And when the smoke cleared, they used the guilt of the world to create Israel, which they needed, and the United Nations, which they needed even more. Phase 4, the brain. 1947, National Security Act. The CIA is born the same year Israel is born, the same year the UFO story explodes. That's not coincidence. That's choreography. The national security state needed an eternal budget and eternal enemies. Communism was perfect. Flying saucers were better. Both were funded through the same black budget pipelines that laundered Nazi gold and Japanese war loot via the Vatican Bank and the BIS in Switzerland. Look up Operation Paperclip if you think I'm exaggerating. We didn't just bring over scientists. We brought over the entire esoteric research division of the SS, Ahnenerbe occultists who believed they were talking to entities from Aldebaran. Those guys didn't go to NASA. They went to Wright-Patterson, then to Los Alamos, then to a desert facility we're not allowed to name yet. Phase 5, the frequency. 1954, the first Bilderberg meeting. 1954, the year the CIA overthrows Guatemala for United Fruit Company. 1954, the year the term military-industrial complex starts getting whispered in memos that won't be declassified for 50 years. They realized wars were profitable, but controlled crises were more profitable. So they built television. Not the box, the control grid. Operation Mockingbird wasn't a scandal. It was the business model. Every anchor you grew up trusting was reading from a script vetted in Langley. The same year they rolled out fluoride in the water, ratified neurotoxin, by the way, because the aluminum industry needed somewhere to dump it and calm populations don't revolt. Phase 6, the sacrifice. November 22, 1963. Dealey Plaza. They didn't just kill a president. They killed the idea that a president could ever defy them again. JFK's NSAM-263 was going to pull us out of Vietnam, read it. Lyndon Johnson reversed it in a week. The war lasted 10 more years. Halliburton, Brown and Root, Bell Helicopter, all made billions. And the Zapruder film, frame by frame, shows you the exit wound in the back of the head. Physics doesn't lie. The government does. Phase 7, the softening. 1971, Nixon closes the gold window. The dollar is now backed by nothing but Saudi oil and the threat of cruise missiles. They call it the petrodollar. I call it global extortion with extra steps. 1973, they give us the oil crisis. 1974, they give us Henry Kissinger telling India to sterilize its men or lose food aid. 1975, the Church Committee pretends to expose MKUltra, then quietly lets it continue under new code names: Monarch, Artichoke, often Bluebird, now probably something with quantum in the title. Phase 8, the inversion. 1980s, the Satanic Panic. Remember that? All those daycare workers supposedly abusing kids in ritual ceremonies? Almost every case fell apart. Why? Because the real abuse was happening at the top: Presidio, Franklin Scandal, Dutrex in Belgium, North Fox Island, and they needed a controlled explosion of hysteria at the bottom to discredit anyone who started pointing upward. Classic inversion. Phase 8, the inversion. 1980s, the Satanic Panic. Remember that? All those daycare workers supposedly abusing kids in ritual ceremonies? Almost every case fell apart. Why? Because the real abuse was happening at the top: Presidio, Franklin Scandal, Dutrex in Belgium, North Fox Island, and they needed a controlled explosion of hysteria at the bottom to discredit anyone who started pointing upward. Classic inversion. Phase 9, the test run. 1990 to 91. Gulf War. First live televised war. First widespread use of depleted uranium munitions. First time they told us a US incubator baby story that turned out to be the daughter of the Kuwaiti ambassador, coached by Hill and Knowlton. They were beta testing narrative control on a planetary scale. Phase 10, the merge. September 11, 2001. You already know the physics don't work for the official story. You know Building 7 wasn't hit by a plane. You know the Pentagon hole is too small. What you may not have connected is that on the same day Larry Silverstein's insurance policy on the asbestos-riddled Twin Towers paid double for 2 separate events, and the next day the project for the new American century's dream of a new Pearl Harbor came true. They needed endless war, endless surveillance, endless printing. They got all 3.
Phase 11, the upload. 2008 financial crisis. The banks that created the Fed in 1913 blew up the world, then got bailed out with trillions that didn't exist until the moment they typed the numbers into existence. That was the moment the mask slipped completely. They didn't even pretend to follow laws anymore. Phase 12, the needle. 2020. Event 201. Lockstep. SPAR's 2025 to 2028 scenario document. They literally wargamed it in October 2019. Then they ran the script. And half the planet lined up for an injection whose midterm trial data won't be complete until 2027 to 2028. The same companies that brought you OxyContin and Vioxx told you it was safe and effective. The same media that told you Iraq had WMDs told you to mask a 2-year-old. The same fact-checkers funded by the same foundations that funded the virus research told you the lab leak theory was racist. You were the control group and the test group at the same time. And now, right now, tonight, they're rolling out digital IDs, carbon allowances, programmable central bank digital currencies, and neural interfaces, all under the banner of convenience and climate and safety. You think Q was a psyop? Of course it was. But so was the counter-Q. So was Occupy. So was BLM. So was January 6th. So is every color revolution you've ever watched on television. They don't care what side you pick as long as you pick a side and stay inside the arena. Here's the part they really don't want you to say out loud. Every major event of the last 120 years traces back to the same half-dozen banking families, the same handful of intelligence networks, and the same occult society that's been hiding in plain sight since Bavaria, 1776. The end point isn't left or right. The end point is ownership of your body, your thoughts, your children, and eventually your soul, if you still believe you have one they haven't already mortgaged. But here's the secret they're terrified you'll remember. None of it works without your obedience. The whole cathedral of control is built on a single assumption, that you will keep agreeing to the game. So stop. Stop scanning the QR code. Stop updating the app. Stop asking permission. Stop watching their channels. Stop paying their debt notes when barter comes back. Stop letting them teach your kids that 2 + 2 = climate change. The simulation only renders the parts you keep looking at. Look somewhere else. And whatever you do, do not comply. That's the hour. If you just heard something that made your stomach drop, good. That was the sound of the veil ripping. I'll be back when they let me. Until then, stay human.
In the shadows, the secrets lie. Mysteries whisper, watch the darkest sky. Foggy beats echo through the neon light. X marks the spot where the truth takes flight. Strange things happen where the stories blend in the groove of night. The funk won't end. X-Files, revelations, tune into the sound. Funk of the ages, let your spirit be bound. Dancing in shadows, uncover the truth as we ride this wave, lost in the groove. Alien signals, can you feel the beat? Searching for answers while we dance on the street. My bending visions when the music flows. Kick back, relax, let the rhythm grow. In the midst of the chase, we find our groove. Every twist and turn, feel the funk move. X-Files, revelations, tune into the sound. Funk of the ages, let your spirit be bound. Dancing in shadows, uncover the truth as we ride this wave, lost in the groove. Funky mysteries forever in time. In a world